I think we may be live. Look, I'm a minute early on top of that, which is actually more of a screw up on my part. I just hit go too soon. Well, stream. Go isn't actually a button. Let's see if audio is here. Come on, refresh. Nothing's happening on my end, or here. So, oh, something's happening. Check for audio really quick. Oh, I hear me. Okay, we're good. Let's go ahead and hit record. Look, before anyone had to remind me, although someone may have already reminded me and I just didn't see it yet. And yay, we're, I think, about ready to go. Making sure everything is where it's supposed to be. That is working, right? Yep, working and good. Okay, so tonight I'm working with just the basic set of 12 polychromos plus a white Derwent drawing, just because I need a wax. I need at least one wax-based white pencil. Whether or not I use this, I don't know. I'm almost positive I'm going to end up using the wax-based one. I need to get the label off of that. I should have done that already. I don't recommend, when you buy these pencils individually and they come with this, their label on it, I'd recommend removing that before you sharpen them. It really messes up your sharpener. Do not recommend. So let me try to, come on. This should not be this hard. I do wish they used less sticky tape on this. Oh my gosh, this really should not be a thing right now. Come on. Okay, good enough. I can get the rest off later. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Make sure, if you have any questions for me that you actually want me to see, do the Lachri Fine Art. If it doesn't highlight in orange, I just don't see it. It's not that I'm trying to ignore anybody. I just don't see those. If you can't get that to work, then just ask one of the moderators or someone else in the group to ask your question for you so that I can see that. I normally won't notice the questions that are not highlighted. Okay, so set of 12 polychromos. Now, I will say this is a pretty solid set. I do wish that the two blues that come in this set are, what is this? Actually, I guess I can just tell you. Phthalo blue and light ultramarine. Pretty blues, but I do wish one was a little bit darker. That's probably the only thing I would change if I could change out one color in the set. But what I'm going to be doing is just kind of demonstrating the fact that you don't need a set of 120. I like a set of 120. I prefer to have it, absolutely. I always say get as many colors as you can afford, but I would rather see somebody use a small set of 12 good pencils than 150 crap pencils that they, some of that cheap stuff that gets sent over from China. Do not recommend that. So, I guess they're okay to play around with, but when you're looking at wanting to do stuff that's archival, you can do a lot with just these 12 pencils and mix the colors. This bird, this is a military macaw, and these guys are kind of an olive, they have like an olive green color to it. I don't really have those colors. I have a bright green and a just kind of a medium green. I don't even know which ones these are called. Emerald green and light green. Oh, it is light green. Wow, somebody's actually named the color I called it naturally. But what I will do is use the colors in the set, the reds and the magentas, and we've got this little brownish color. I will use these colors to tone down those grains to give me that more olive color. The thing, too, that you want to keep in mind, a lot of people feel that they need every color available, and they almost end up overdoing it a little bit with... They depend on just grabbing the pencil, and I do it too, but they depend so much on grabbing whatever color they need that they never learn to mix and blend color, and then they struggle with that constantly. If you find yourself struggling with your colors, if you're having a hard time knowing what to mix, how to mix, what layer, which goes first, simplify it. Start with a set of 12. Or heck, you could start with 3 pencils. Or well, maybe I guess 4, because I would still do black and white. And then your red, blue, and yellow. You can do so much from that. And if you can learn to blend from fewer colors when you've got the, work with the full set, it really will make your life easier. And if you're somebody who already has the full sets, just work with a few. Look up online which colors are in the set of 12. Like, that's what I'm going to be doing here. And you can do a lot with it. Is it easier with the full set? I think so. I could save time. Like, I'm going to be working on the beak tonight. Oh, I have to put my glassine down. I'll be working on the beak. That would require a lot of gray. I have black and white, so I have to mix that on my own. So yeah, it's a little bit more work as far as that goes, but you learn to mix in doing that. So let's go ahead. Nope. Okay, let me grab my glassine really quick. So glassine is the paper that I use. It's Archival, and this is what I use to keep the oils from my skin when I rest my hand on my work from touching the work, because you don't want the oils on your skin on there. They're not acid free. So by doing it this way, I'm missing lines, I think, in here. Am I missing lines? No, I'm not. There's a bottom big talkie. Okay, I can wait. Hold on, let me double check I've got everything where it needs to be. So inside, tongue, okay. The beak is quite open. So let's go ahead. All the supplies I am using tonight are listed in the video description. So if you're interested in those, they are there. And those are all my Amazon affiliate links. Okay, I actually need to sharpen some of these. So I'm going to start with my black, white, and probably a little bit of this yellowish color. The sharpener I'm using is just one of these little comb sharpeners, the little metal ones. These ones are currently my favorites. I go through phases where I want to use electric sharpeners and then I want to use handheld and back and forth. I'm right now on one of my handheld ones. So what I'm going to do is just start blocking out the darkest areas. So let's outline everything first. This is going to be super, super dark black. Now, when you want to get your black really, really dark with colored pencil, it's better if you do that. Let's see, this fades. We'll go that way. You're not going to do it just with black alone, unless you want a very grayish tone. If you want the black to look like a deeper black, add blue, red, purples, add any of those colors in there or all of them, and you'll get a much deeper black. Yes, the black background is pencil. The background is completely done with magenta and black. And the paper that I'm using, so this paper, it's Strathmore's 400 series, the medium weight cream paper. It's not that I love the paper, it's the paper I used for years. The reason that I'm using this is it's very inexpensive, and this is going to be a part of a video like getting started on a budget with colored pencil, like showing that you don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get started with okay supplies. It's archival, it's thin, it's very lightweight. That's the thing I don't like about it. The texture I love. I actually really like working on this paper. So that is why this is listed versus my usual Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press, or the Arches, or Canson Metans. Those are some of my favorites. Stonehenge, actually. I don't love Stonehenge if I'm just using polychromos, so I wouldn't have chosen that one anyway. But yeah, that is why I've got this kind of cheaper paper listed. So what I've done, I've got my nice sharp pencil. Just going to fill this in. Now this will end up fading. The black will fade out into the green, but I'm not even going to worry about that right now. What I want to do is just pick one little area to focus on. If you try to focus on too much of your piece all at once, and especially in colored pencil because it is such a slow medium, if you're like jumping over here and then over here and then down here, it's hard to get the details that you want to. If you're going for realism, it's hard to really keep track of what area you're working on. And I'm working in little ovals. And the reason that I do ovals versus, let me grab a sketchbook actually to show you why. Got one over here. After I throw stuff on the floor. Okay. Whoa, this is an old, oh wow. Okay, story time, sharing time. This has nothing to do with this video, but this is kind of fun. I do these sketches quite often. Now I mostly do them in Photoshop, but I do sketches, loose sketches of painting designs. There was the sketch, the concept. Here was the actual painting. Well, this is a postcard of the painting, but that's just kind of fun. I don't even know if that's going to be in focus for you guys. But yeah, that is sketch. Like, wow, this is an old sketchbook. This is from 2011. Okay. Let's skip. Wow, I've got a lot of stuff in here. Okay. Piece of paper that's loose. We'll use that. Okay, so the reason that I don't do straight lines, why I do ovals versus straight lines, with very few exceptions. If I work in oval, so my shape is basically this, but really close together. So I'm working in ovals, I get this really soft transition from one area to another. If I'm working on straight lines, my stop and start points are harsh. It's like a straight edge where I start and stop. So it may feel like you're going faster, but as you layer, you end up with these harsher start and stop points, whereas these rounded areas are much easier to blend in and end up with a softer transition from one area to the next. Okay. Yeah, I actually had an idea I came up with last night. I'm really excited. I want to do, in the new house, I'm going to set up one of my, because I have 3 GoPros. I probably will end up with another one sometime soon because I want to use them for everything. But I want to set up a GoPro that's always ready to go over my workbench. So whenever I want to sit down and do a quick sketch, I'll just hit record and use it as like B-roll story time type thing. So hopefully that will end up being a thing. Let's see. Robert said, Prismacolor sharpener is very good. It's also very overpriced. That was my thing with that. It was okay. It's just so much more expensive than this little metal one. So that was my only issue with it. It wasn't that it didn't work. It was just not, seemed overpriced for what it did to me. But yeah, no, I mean, it works just fine. I do like with the Prismacolor ones, the ones that have the little container at the bottom to hold the shavings. But even then, I usually go with a Coon sharpener for that. Joe said, I was going to ask what makes this paper not your first choice, as I've heard you say before. Good to know it's primarily the weight. Yeah, the texture's wonderful. I actually really, it's smooth, but not too smooth. I feel like the pencil really grips very well to it. It is absolutely something you can sell. It's archival. So I would just make sure it's matted and framed, ideally, before you give it to somebody, just because it is, I mean, it's really flimsy. Let's see. Tammy said, if you'd like, oh, yes. And just a reminder again, if you do the Lachri Fine Art where it highlights in orange, that's how I will see your question. Otherwise, I just don't see it. It's not that I'm trying to ignore you. Let's see. Miriam said, where do you find your glassine paper? I get it from Amazon, and I should have that. Do I have it linked in my description? I may not. Yep, it's linked in the video description. And I don't even know, hold on, I'm actually going to open that link. Yeah, it's still, currently unavailable. There you go. Well, that's what it is. And you'll just, yeah, there's other ones on there. There's one, like when I looked at lower price considered or whatever, there are some for like $13 and $7 shipping. And one roll will last you a very, very long time. So yeah, that's listed in the video description. I always remember, or forget if I remember to add those. Pamela said, I found that I like cold press paper with watercolor. Colors will be more vibrant in cold press working, or will colors be more vibrant in cold press working in pencil? I do not like cold press for colored pencil. It's too bumpy. For watercolor, absolutely. For pencil, it's really bumpy, so your end result will look like kind of that crayon, that gritty, grainy look. You're not going to get the smooth look like this. So it may be a look that you want. Maybe you're going for a rough look, because there's times where that may look awesome. It depends on what your goals are. But when you're trying to get tiny detail, really smooth blending, you're going to want to go with a hot press for colored pencil. Let's see. Am I caught up? Yep, caught up. Okay, back to work. So anyway, moving back along, that is why I work in little circles. That was like a 10-minute interlude or whatever. I don't know. I'm making up words now. I don't think that was the right word. I don't know why that just popped in my head. But anyway, yeah, here we go. Now this part of the beak is going to be more gray. This black is going to fade into it. I'm going to hold off a little bit on that. I'm not going to do too much. I'm just kind of blocking in the really dark, dark areas. And I'm missing a line here. I knew I was missing something. Okay, this comes here, so you're going to come down that way. And then his tongue. So this whole section in here, I can pretty much fill in. Again, working in those little ovals and circles. Now, I do recommend you want to keep your pencil fairly sharp so that the lead can get into all the little nooks and crannies of the paper. If you're working with a dull lead, like, let me find one, I'm sure one of them's here. Oh, here, yeah. So if we look at this, the Derwent drawing, this one has a really dull lead right now. It can't get into all the little nooks and crannies of the paper, so that's one more thing that will cause a grainy, gritty look. In this case, I'm going to do many, many layers and then use my odorless mineral spirits to make that fade out, or blend out. Fade is not the right word there. I'm just going to keep using words I don't mean, like just whatever random word pops in my head. Let's see. Emily said, how do you overcome fear of posting artwork online? I never had a fear of that. I think I would say probably just doing it. I mean, like any fear, just doing it, jumping in. I will say I did have a fear of the videos, that side, so maybe I can relate to you in that sense. The worrying about people saying mean things about whether it be how you talk, and I get some nasty comments about how I talk. I mean, everything. You get some crazy comments, and I was super afraid for some reason of those comments, what people would say to me on YouTube. What I learned was, one, you will get nasty comments no matter what, and it doesn't matter how amazing your artwork is. There's going to be someone who thinks that you need to hear they don't like it. Oh, okay. You have a lot of very self-important people on the internet who think their opinion, I guess mommy and daddy taught them their opinion held more weight than it actually does. And they, for some reason, need to inflict that opinion onto the rest of the world. But you'll get that. But the bigger thing I learned was almost everybody's nice. Even on YouTube. I mean, there are a lot of jerks. Yes. And there's, YouTube has a reputation for having a lot of jerks, and you'll get that on Facebook and such as well. But it's not as much as I expected. I mean, when you're posting artwork, the majority of the people, I've met some amazing people because I posted online. Some great feedback, some people who are just super encouraging. So it wasn't, once I started doing it and realizing, like, I waited, God, months and months and months. Now, keep in mind, I've been teaching since 1999, I believe. I've been teaching for a very long time. I know how to teach. I get this side of it. I didn't want to teach on YouTube because you're always going to have someone saying your methods are wrong, or so I was worried about, because that is pretty typical of people. So that was why I was very, very hesitant. My first tutorial, somebody had asked me how to paint bubbles. So I did that first video, and it's still one of my better performing videos, how to paint easy bubbles and water droplets. The feedback I got from that was amazing. And once you start realizing people aren't quite as mean as you expected them to be, I think it gets way less scary. So that would be how to overcome it. Thanks, Uncle 60. Do I like espresso? Yes, I do. A lot. I just like caffeine. All caffeine is amazing to me. I'll scroll back up. Electric Dead said, how long on average does it take you to do an acrylic painting of a big cat, say an A3 size? I don't know what A3 is. Hold on, let's find out. I can look this up. That would be about an 8.5 by 11, right around there, 8 by 10, I guess. How long would that? I could have that done in a night. I paint weirdly fast though. And I guess it depends on what I was doing, but yeah, I could go super detailed and easily have that done in a night. That acrylic's very, very fast, but not everybody is going to paint that fast. I always feel like I should throw out there, whenever you hear how fast it takes someone else to do their work, don't feel like if you are slower than that you're not any good or not as good as the other person. The speed has nothing to do with how good you are. I paint at what's comfortable for me, and that just is very fast. I didn't realize I was painting faster than normal people, I guess, do until I was working with some other artists, and I would get these paintings done. We were doing like 16 by 20 inches. I would have 3 done, and they were still working on their first. So, and it wasn't that I was rushing. That was just my natural speed. So yeah, I can have it done in a night, but if you find that you're slower, please don't feel like that's something that means you're not good, because it's nothing to do with each other. Veek said, would you recommend using a burnishing tool at the end of your coloring, and how do you use it? Yeah, burnishing is fine at the end. What burnishing is, for anyone listening and who doesn't know, burnishing is when you're pushing really hard. So you're jamming. I can show you a little sample. Let's grab my paper here. I don't want to burnish over this because I will indent it. Let's see. I think you can kind of see over here a little bit. Burnishing would be, see how if I push really hard, how it's instantly super, super dark. Versus when I go light, you get that grainy, gritty look. Burnishing will give you this beautiful, real smooth look. The problem is, one, I can't do it for an entire piece just because my arthritis can't handle it. But 2, it limits how many layers you can do. I just flatten the tooth of the paper out by jamming the pencil by burnishing. So I can't now go back over it. I mean, I can put other colors over it. It's not going to stick very well. Whereas if I keep working everything with a light layer, I can layer on top of layer on top of layer. So being that that's how I like to work, that's very important to me. But there are times at the end of a piece where I may think it looks better to burnish after. Now you can burnish by either using like what I just did with the black pencil, same pencil, use that to burnish. Some people will use white to burnish. You can also get certain pencils have tools for burnishing, colorless blenders. Prismacolor makes one, and Luminance makes, or Karakash makes theirs. I think Luminance or Karakash calls theirs their full blender bright, and it works fine. But I wouldn't recommend burnishing until you know, like, you don't need other layers on that area. But yeah, no, that can give you a nice look. You just want to pay attention to when you decide to use that technique. So here I've got red. Now here's the thing. A lot of people ask, well, with like red lines that need to go over the black, how do you do that? By not putting black where the red needs to go. And I know that sounds overly simplified, but that's really it. I can't take red and have the red feathers overlap the black. So I've got to go back and forth here and keep that soft as I work through so that the red can fill in that place. So see how I've got that sketchy look there. Okay. Safira said, do you think a degree in business administration with a major in entrepreneurship would be helpful for an aspiring fine artist? I think that's a good way to go into debt for no reason, honestly. Like, going to school for entrepreneurship is like the opposite of what entrepreneurship is to me. Like, I don't understand why you would do that. That makes zero sense. If you want to be an entrepreneur, there are free resources everywhere online, or you can do a paid course, which is still going to be 1,000,000 times less than what the college is. Going to school as an entrepreneur is kind of one of those jokes. Like, what? I don't like, that is irony would be a good definition of what that is. So no, I wouldn't say do it for entrepreneurship. If you want to be an entrepreneur, learn in ways that don't cost you an arm and a leg. Like that doesn't make sense to me. A degree in business administration. Let's see, if you want to be a fine artist, if your goal is to be a fine artist, business administration, that's another thing. You wouldn't need a degree. I mean, are you going to I don't require myself to have a degree to do my job. I'm my boss. I don't require I didn't require a degree to get this job. So depending on what you want to do. Now, I do think business and marketing is one of the most helpful things you can learn as an artist, but you can also do that online. I've kind of been on this kick lately. You may have noticed when you see the amount of student debt people are in, if you can, now here, let's back that up. Can you go to school without putting yourself into serious debt? If you can, go for it. Absolutely. If not, there are better resources to learn those tools that will not put you into debt. I think if you want to be a fine artist, starting your career out with $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, some of the amounts that I've seen people go into debt for is insane. That is the raw, like, you're going to be paying off your debt for so long. It's going to be very, very hard to get on your feet. I don't recommend that path. There are trade schools. I would look into that potentially. And there's so much resource online that you just don't need for if that's your goal. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, if you want to get into business administration for somebody else, then yeah, go for the degree, or a trade school if that's available, would be my first choice. But what people are putting themselves into debt for degrees, for a piece of paper that does nothing to help them. Now, I'm not saying that for every degree. I'm saying a degree in entrepreneurship, there's zero value for you in that. Not zero value. You might learn something, the same somethings you could have learned for free online. I wouldn't recommend it. I think it's kind of a weird thing to get a degree for. Business administration, very useful, but only if you're planning to go and work for somebody else. Now, those are things that you should learn. But again, you can learn them for free online. So I think a lot of it will come down to, like, can you afford to do it without going into debt? If so, then go for it. If not, I sure wouldn't recommend it. That the mess that we've gotten these kids into, telling everybody that the only path is to go to college, is insanity. So one, that's just not true. College is not the only path. Is it a decent path, a good path? It can be. I'm not saying college is always wrong, but we're giving kids degrees. We're putting them into debt for degrees that they didn't need to get a degree for. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And so I really wish people would start, maybe teaching their kids, or, I mean, the college counselors obviously want your money. They want to get you into that debt and get you into that cycle. So they're not going to be real honest about, hey, by the way, you're going to have a real hard time paying this degree back, because getting a job with that degree, you're probably going to work at Macy's. So, they're not going to be super honest, but I do hope that more kids start realizing that there are other paths to make great livings that don't, I mean, if you want to be a doctor or an engineer, you know, there's certain, well, not even engineer, there are trade schools for some of that, but certain things you do need a degree for. Entrepreneurship, not one of them. Probably not what you wanted to hear, and I apologize, but I wish more people would really tell kids, college is not the only path. There are other good paths that may be a better choice for you that don't include going into debt. And I just assume going into debt because everybody I know went to debt to go to school. If your parents can afford to pay for you to go to school, do it. Great. Go for it. If you're going to put yourself into insane debt to do it, I wouldn't do it. Not for that anyway. Let's see. Whoops. I just scrolled too far. 1 second. Here we go. Margine said, "Hi Lisa, isn't Strathmore drawing paper cold press?" No, you may be able to get cold press. This one is their 400 series medium cream. And it's pretty smooth. Is it possible to show us your photo source? And I don't have it on this computer. This one came from Pixabay. If you look up macaw or military macaw, it should come up for you. It has it'll make it easier for you to find. It has a green background. I changed my background. I wanted to go with something more dramatic, so the whole piece wasn't green since I'm using only, the 12 colors. I thought it'd be more fun to throw in an extra color in there. Let's see. Kristen said, "How do you paint the dusty film on the beak? Because I'm working on that piece for school and I'm facing a lot of problems with it." It's not really a film. Beaks, if you're not familiar with birds, it's very much like your fingernails. If you've ever had, like, where you used too much acetone and your nail started to kind of peel a little. I might be speaking from experience. But that's what the beak is. It's like a nail. A very hard nail, but it's not really, in this case, it's not a dusty film. It would be a dusty film if you were working with a cockatoo. They will get a dusty film, over their beak. With these guys, it's not dusty. It's just the areas that peel. And the reason that I'm specifying that and correcting the terminology there is just because if you understand what it is, sometimes it's a lot easier to render it more accurately. So with these guys, their beaks are you're just gonna, like anything else. What value do you see there? How light or dark is that? That's what you're doing. You're just breaking it down into little sections. And I mean, here, we'll start in with this guy here. So, as you watch tonight, I'm going to be doing that very thing. So hopefully that'll help more than me explaining it. But know that unless it's a cockatoo, then it is dusty, and that you're just copying your values. Copy what you see. What value do you see? Zoom in closer. Sometimes when you're looking at it as a whole, like it's a beak, it's a dusty beak, that gets confusing. Instead, zoom in really close. Okay, it's a medium black. It shades and kind of fades right here, harsh line, and fades into a lighter gray. That's what you want to think of it as, instead of I'm drawing a beak that's dusty. If you look at it that way, sometimes your brain is like, it just doesn't process it quite right. Let's see. Elaine said, "I've been doing only graphite, but I am going to move into pastel. Do you recommend I study color? Is color theory a thing, or should I just experiment?" Color theory is a thing. I would just jump in. Most artists that I know didn't focus too heavily on color theory. Can you? Yeah. Is it a value? Sure. Do you absolutely need to? No. I think color theory makes more sense when you've spent more time experimenting. If you are reading a book and you start reading it, it sounds like another language. When you've played with different colors and you overlapped one or put one next to another and thought, wow, that makes, putting the orange right next to the blue, that blue just pops. Why? Color theory will now make sense to you because you saw it firsthand. If you just read the book, I wouldn't even mess with it just yet. I would just jump in and get used to the typical, draw what you see, copy what you see there. And I'm not saying there's no value in studying color theory. It's not as like crucial as, I'm trying to think of like an example of that. Like cooking, you probably, if you're not used to cooking, you want to follow a recipe. When you're working with art, you experiment a lot more, and usually fairly safely. I mean, nobody has to taste your bad color choices. So there's that. But yeah, no, there is value in color theory, but it's not as big of a deal. I think you just start to learn from experimenting. You'll start to get the hang of things and start to understand how different colors work together. So here I'm going to give this a bluish tint and blend that phthalo blue right into the beak here. I'm going to do that along the edge of the black as well. Okay, let's see. We've got, oops, and that's rolled too far. Where were we? Vladimir said, what surface would you recommend for pan pastel? Sanded paper, texture like Canson Inktense? I don't like Canson. When I used to do pastels years ago, pastel pencils and the charcoal, or like the pastel blocks, I used like Canson Inktense. I wouldn't do it again. Now that I've used sanded paper, hands down for me is sanded paper. I love sanded paper and pastels together. So that would be my choice. Let's see. Veek said, do you recommend Bristol vellum for colored pencils or stick with something with more tooth? What happens with Bristol vellum when you use graphite versus using colored pencils? I guess I have used the Strathmore Bristol vellum for graphite. I don't like it for either myself. It's too smooth and it's very hard to get the color saturation where you want it. So it is definitely not my choice. Oops, that needs to be sharpened. I have a ton of smooth paper here, Bristol vellum and all of those, and just trying to think which one I have. It's something smooth. It had a windmill on it. So I don't use them. I've had them for years. I used them both once and was like, yeah, not for me. I can't get the color saturation where I want it to be. Now, I've seen artists that do work on it and they do get their color saturation great and everything goes well. For my techniques, it just did not work out very well. I'm going to take this magenta and go right over the black as well, which is going to give me that darker look. If I use black by itself, it ends up being almost, it's like a dead color, like charcoaly, kind of dry. I'm trying to think how to word that. But if I add other color into it, you get this nice, rich, deep color. Electric Dead said, do you prefer to work at night or in the day? Also, do you struggle with motivation to do your art either in the past or present? I prefer the night, but I usually do like the office work side of things during the day. That's, I don't like to draw or paint in the day at all. I never have. So I try to keep any of that. Occasionally, just for time crunch reasons, I may have to, but that's rare. Almost always during the night is when I paint or draw. And then in the day is when that's when I feel more creative and that side of things. And then during the day is when I do the office work type stuff, uploading and editing video. What else do I do during the day? Recording the Colored Pencil podcast. Those sorts of things are more of daytime activities for me. I definitely prefer the night. I don't like to do anything in the day. I don't even want to be awake in the day. And for struggling with motivation, absolutely. There are times where I just don't want to work. I want to go play Warcraft, or I want to, and I mean, I still allow myself time for that. But I mean, I'm one of those people who I would play Warcraft from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. I used to do that years ago before YouTube. But yeah, there are definitely times that I'm just not in the mood, but I schedule it, because what happens, a lot of people tend to wait for motivation to hit until they work. And that usually means you don't get any work done. That's not usually, I mean, if it's your job, especially, I have to go to work whether I'm in the mood or not, whether I have motivation or not. It has to be done. So if you can schedule and have like this is the time I'm always going to be drawing, in my case, I just do it whether I'm motivated to do it or not. I have to go do it. So that's, but the not feeling motivated is very normal. What you want to avoid is using that as a reason to never get anything done. If you're always waiting to be motivated, you're not going to accomplish much. You have to work whether the motivation is there or not. Oops, that scrolled too far. Where did we go? Okay, here we are. How about doing a color wheel from scratch and manually, is what Beak Ryder said. A lot of people will like to do that. A lot of people like to do color charts and all of those. I've never found them to be beneficial. I just want to jump in and do the project. I learn by doing. That's just me. Not everybody is going to be the same. So you've got to figure out what works best for you. But that's how I work. I just jump in. The only time I have my color swatches, actually a student made them for me and they're awesome, was for my Inktense, because what they look like in the block is not always what they look like on the paper and wet. So that was actually really helpful. But other than that, I just jump in. I've never enjoyed making those little color swatches. And I've never seen where someone benefited so much and now suddenly they understand all the things. Like, I don't know, just not for me. Okay, I'm going to blend this out with odorless mineral spirits. Now, odorless mineral spirits is going to work best for you if you've got a good amount of color saturation on the paper. I need a lot of pencil there. If I only have one layer of colored pencil, it's not going to do a whole lot, and you're going to end up with a very grainy, gritty look, which is probably the opposite of what you're trying to use this for. But if I get a lot of pencil on there when I blend out, like here, not a lot of pencil on the blue portion of the beak. Once I get all of this blended out, or if I've got a lot of layers on there, it'll come out way smoother. But if I don't like it, and I realized, wow, I should have put more pencil there first, I just let it dry and then put another layer over it. You don't ruin anything. It just doesn't do, a whole lot for you if you don't have enough pigment on the paper. Sarah said, I love what Roberto Blake says. People say that your education is the best investment you'll ever make. And they're right. The problem is people think education means a degree. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Starving Artist Collective said, loved art school, went on to do 2 more degrees, but I don't live in the US, so our costs are lower. Kicker is that art supplies afterwards are ridiculous in Australia. Oh, but koalas, exactly. You have koalas. I can't feel sorry for you. Yeah, and see, I think that makes a difference too, and I should specify that because I know a lot of viewers are from other countries that do provide college. We don't here, and which I don't think is a problem. I don't think that we necessarily need to require or do it for free, but it needs to go back to what it was. Before we started giving out insane loans, the cost of college was not that much. It was reasonable. Now, the cost of college, because they know students will just take out loans for it, we're just going to hike the price up to insane amounts. I mean, somebody spending $100,000 to get a degree so she could make purses? Are you flipping kidding me? First, that was a stupid choice, but she was young. Of course she's going to make, young people don't make the wisest choices. I sure didn't. So I don't blame, in part I blame her, but largely the schools know what they're doing, getting these kids into debt for that. And they raise the prices to a point where we can't afford it anymore without going into debt. That's where the problem is for me. I don't mind that we charge for school. I mind how much we charge for school. That is just insane to me. Where if you look back to what it was in like the 70s and 60s, even factoring in the cost of inflation, it is not, today, it's insane. It is absolutely insane. Yeah, and it's not, I don't mean to make it sound like there's no benefit to taking art in college. It's just that you can do it without. Like, I hate to see students go into debt to start their career off that way. Yeah, you guys definitely have the higher costs and supplies, but you were right. Koalas make up for everything. What is a sanded paper? What is sanded paper? It's sandpaper. Like, you know what sandpaper is, right? To sand wood? It's that, but for art. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, it's gritty. But if you think of like a smooth sandpaper, like maybe a 600 grit, that's about what we're working on when using sanded paper. That is not what I'm working on today. Let's see. Crystal Renee Art said, I am mainly a pastel artist. My favorite paper is pastel matte. I've started with Canson Me-10s and it sucks. Yeah, I like Canson Me-10s for colored pencil, not for pastels. Oops. And the scroll. Oh yeah, I definitely scrolled too far. Art Jitter said, you've mentioned Fisher and UArt paper. Are they sanded papers and what mediums are they good for? Thank you in advance. You're welcome in advance. The UArt, I use them when I'm using colored pencil with powder blender or when I'm using them with colored pencil and pan pastels. Those are my 2 favorite ways to use them. Yeah, that's what I use them for. Yeah, I think I got all the parts of that question. Yep. Miriam said, and you take care of your fish, your studio assistants, plants, and especially the chicken. Did I miss the first half of that question? Miriam, I think I always miss half your questions, and I apologize for that. Let's scroll up and see where Miriam last spoke. Or I'm just not paying attention to the part of the conversation because we're always behind on these. Also possible. I think we're talking about doing all the stuff. Okay, let's see. That's just awkward because I don't remember what part of the conversation it was from. I'm sorry. Big Writer said, so in general, the final words in paper is don't skimp on quality, no substitutes, get the best you can spare. Yes and no. Yes, in that, like, if you're selling work and you're taking it seriously, especially with colored pencils, this is what I always told my students. With colored pencil, you're going to spend months, or in their cases, they were spending months. But I mean, let's say you spend 2 weeks on one drawing. A piece of paper for $5 doesn't sound that much when you consider you've got weeks or a month into that project. If you're doing quick sketches and you're like, ripping the paper out and doing another one, ripping it out, and you've got 3 sketches done in a night, I would not go with the expensive stuff then. But then you've got this. This is not super expensive. It's one of the more inexpensive ones. You can get it at Michael's, you can get it at Hobby Lobby, it's on Amazon, and it works. It's fine to learn on, and you can technically sell it. It's just that it rips easy is my biggest complaint with it. But when going back to the Strathmore Bristol Vellum, it's not because it's cheap that I don't like it. It's because it's too smooth. I just cannot get the color saturation I want with that stuff. There's not enough tooth for the pencil to stick to. So that's my problem with it. Diane said, hi, Lisa, I love your work. Thank you. When you were doing commissions, how did you manage your demands for work and to keep your schedule? Any advice? Have it in order. I mean, you make sure people give you a deposit. Do not even put them on your schedule. If there is no deposit, they are not on my schedule. Because I don't have time to be screwing around with them. Like, when I give somebody else the estimate of when I'm going to get their work done, and I've got this person over here screwing around with, oh, maybe I don't have the deposit this month. Can you push me back again? Now, this person got bumped up, and it screws up their time frame on when they need to pay me. It's just, no. Always take a deposit and just have a schedule, which order things are going to be done in, and make sure to give yourself time, like if you got sick, if there was a family emergency, whatever comes up, that you still have time to fit their, complete their work on within your schedule. But yeah, it was just scheduling it and making sure you have a deposit. Not having a deposit is probably, from the beginning before you do any work for them or even get them on your schedule is probably one of the biggest challenge or cause problems. Sarah said, and here's another thing. Don't assume that because, okay, that needs to dry. So let's work on the top beak while we let this layer dry. Don't assume that because you know someone, they've been a good customer for a long time or a good client for a long time, they bought other things from you, that you don't need to take a deposit moving forward. I made that mistake with someone who ended up being freaking insane and causing all kinds of nightmare. She paid part of a deposit and then she kept adding paintings and I kept doing more because I knew she had money and it was like, it's fine, she'll pay. She's been a client for like a year at this point. It'll be okay. No, it wasn't. She ended up flaking massively on, God, this woman owed me a couple $1,000s by the end of it. Luckily, I had not shipped her paintings yet, but it was a problem. It was a real problem. Don't assume that because it's a friend, because it's a family member, or because it's a past client that you don't need a deposit. You always just make that a rule. No matter what, if you are going to charge them, you take that deposit to start with. Sarah said, do you always have a definite plan when you sit down to paint or draw? Sort of. My plan is usually, hi, Ursies. My plan is usually just, I'm going to complete the beak, or I'm going to work on this section of the face, and that's all I'm going to focus on. Or it usually starts with, okay, I'm going to sit down and work for 4 hours, and my first goal is this part of the beak. My second goal is this part. My third goal, I'll set those kind of goals. So it's a sort of plan. Sort of is my answer. And sometimes I change my mind because I realize, oh, maybe I should work over here, would be easier, or I'm just in the mood to work on that. Let's see. Miriam said, yes, you were doing art at night, business during the day. Oh, yes, that's what you were talking about with taking care of all the pets. Yes. Yeah, the pets are a part. The pets are always in the schedule of stuff to do. They just kind of get fit in between. Like I don't even think about it because it's just a part of like the normal, I'm stuck on my air compressor hose, but it's just like a normal part of like what I do at that time every day. There we go. Gina said, how far in advance do you take commissions and how do you explain to the client that the work won't be started right away? It feels awkward to not start work right away. I've never had a problem with it. I mean, people know that you're on a timeline. And it's funny because I actually did a couple of paintings for George, Coralfish 12G here on YouTube. And he didn't realize how slow I am to get stuff done. I can get the painting done, but it's not going to be shipped to you anytime soon unless I'm on like a time frame to begin with. But he was like, yeah, can you get it to me by this weekend? I'm like, I haven't even varnished it. No, that's not happening. I have to get a good photo of it. I have this whole thing. But I didn't explain to him beforehand. So you're right. People would automatically, naturally assume you've got it done and they get it right away. You start right away. So it is. Now, that wasn't a paid commission. So that's why I did not explain all that to him. That was a freebie. But yeah, you definitely, when it comes to commissions, want to let people know, okay, I will be starting the layout on this day. Once we decide on a layout, I won't get started on this until October 13th is about the time, 14th, whatever, is about the time that I'm going to start the actual painting. It'll take me this much time from that. I just have that all written into the contract. That's all. As long as you stick to those dates, I've never had a problem with it. But yeah, you definitely want to let people know, that's for sure. Because you're right. They will assume you're going to start right away if you don't tell them. Like what I did to George. But it wasn't an actual paid commission. That's why I didn't even think about the time frame. Okay. Carol said, do you find that making yourself do art when you don't want to takes away from the joy of painting? Anytime something's a job, it can start taking away from the joy of it. Absolutely. And it's not about just because I don't want to do it. It's just the fact of the matter of it's my job now. When it's your job and you're doing it all the time, you have to do it all the time. Yeah. I mean, I think it takes away from just the fun of, like, for example, I've been painting my little Warhammer characters. That is a blast to me. It's not my job. It's still painting, but it's not my job. So that seems like more fun, even though this actually makes me happier and makes me more proud of myself. So I think anytime you're doing something, I mean, ask a veterinarian, it doesn't matter how much they love animals. You get to a point where you're like, if I have to, deal with another dog right now, I'm just not in the mood. It kind of, yeah, I think that it can, but it's kind of inevitable. That did not come out in English at all. Inevitable. There we go. Okay, so this actually came down too far. Do I have an eraser? Well, it's not going to be super light anyway. That part of the beak needs to come down there. Let's see. Diane said, thank you for great advice on commissions and how to keep them on the demand in check. By the way, you are my inspiration to get started into commission work. That's awesome. That is so cool to hear. Leon said, no worries in your pets. I have a 65-pound mountain cur dog who sits on my shoulder like your chicken. Gina said, great, thanks. Yeah, my current commission isn't due until Christmas, but I was so overloaded before that I haven't even started it. I like to keep her in the loop, but it's awkward. As long as she doesn't plan on it being there until a certain time. Now, remember with your commissions too, if you're shipping it to somebody, make sure you allow for that time, because that can definitely slow things down, the shipping process. But no, I mean, that shouldn't be a problem at all. As long as it's there when she wants it. More often than not, in a case like that, I think the client kind of forgets about it and puts it on the back burner. They know, like if it's a commission, it's a gift for somebody, she knows she's got that coming. As long as it's there by the time she needs it, you're fine. I don't think in that case that the client's like constantly thinking about, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Some may. But for the most part, if she pre-ordered it like that, ready for Christmas, I doubt that she's really thinking too much about it. As long as you get it done when you're supposed to, that's really all that matters. I mean, and I would tell her, I'm not starting until this day. You may then right before let her know, hey, I'm getting ready to start your commission. Were there any last minute changes you might want before I start? I mean, that could be something you could do if she wanted to change the background or something like that. Joseph said, what faction for Warhammer? I don't remember what they're called. They're little, hold on, I'll show you. They're really cute. I'm really proud of myself. You'll probably know when you see them. These are my two. I've got my little horse guy, because he's on a little ghost horse. That guy was a lot of fun. And there's my little ghost lady. So I don't know what faction they are. I didn't get into it to play. I just got into it because I thought it'd be really fun to paint. And I want to decorate my bedroom with them because I'm not right in the head. So my little ghost people, and they were teal, so, you know. Okay. Emerald said, do you stipulate the amount of time you'll work per day in the commission contracts? No. I think most people would rather hear that it takes you like, yeah, I'll have it done for you in 2 months. Let's say it takes you 2 months. I'll have it done for you in 2 months. Even if the actual time frame, when you add it all up, only comes to 5 hours, what happens if you break that up for the client, like it's 5 hours of work, they then sit there and go, wait, you're making, $50 an hour? Are you like, this is too much. You're making too much. Because the client doesn't understand. We don't have nonstop 8 to 5 commissions every day to pay bills. That isn't how it works. And you're not just paying me for my hourly wage. You're paying me for a lifetime of perfecting my craft. You're paying for my experience. You're paying for my vision, my artistic side. You're paying for all of that. It's not just paying me per hour. So no, I don't break it up per hour, telling the client how long that's going to be, because that just leads to them almost devaluing your work in that, oh, it takes this many hours. I find that they would prefer to hear, I'll have it for you in 2 months or a month, versus it really was just 10 hours total. Good question though. Starving Artist Collective said, ooh, show us the Warhammer. Okay, did that one. Short video of your process. My son is struggling with this. Yeah, actually, I'm going to. I went to the Warhammer store and I got permission to film in there, so I'm going to make a video. I wanted to get a few more of those done, but I just have not had any time to work on them in way too long. So yeah, no, I'm making a video out of it. I've got all my B-roll for, when I got the paints, which I went overboard on. I wanted to buy all the paints. So yes, there will be a video of that. And you know what's cool about those is that it actually uses a lot of the same skills that you would learn or use from your painting applies to those. So my husband is thinking, he's been struggling with it. He got started and he's kind of struggling with it and fighting with trying to figure out how to get stuff to look how he wants. And then he got into the contrast paints because he thought that would be easier. I don't like the contrast paints as much. I like the normal. Like I want to control my shading and all of that. Obviously. So, he, I think, was expecting me not to be very good at it. And so the first time I did one, I used one of his little monsters. And this is a scary looking monster, like his spine is hanging out of his back. I don't know, he's scary looking. But I painted him and he came out really good. I was super excited about him. I'll show photos of that one day. I think my husband was a little discouraged that he is still struggling and he's been doing it for a bit longer, and I just jump in and instantly I'm like expert level. But what from your normal painting can be applied to those little miniatures, which I didn't expect. I thought I was going to have to start from scratch learning a new medium. Not at all. It was super easy. It was easier than painting because you can do what's essentially a wood stain, the way you layer the paints and get shading and stuff. So that stuff's that's a lot of fun to work in. I didn't think I'd get super into it, but I always go with my husband into the store when he goes to the comic book store and all those places. I'm not super interested in them myself, but I always look around, and I came across the lady, one of my ladies. Where is she? I think she's in here somewhere. Where did I put it? Hold on, I'll show you. Story time is better with visuals. So this lady, Oleander, I don't know how to say her name, but she's so pretty. She's got her little ghosty ladies and roses, and I don't know. I just thought it was beautiful. Not right in the head. So I saw that and I had that's that one right there, which we still haven't started, is what got me started in it. So then I got some cheaper ones that I could kind of practice on because I didn't think I'd be very good and I didn't want to waste messing her up. So yeah, I've got one more horse to finish and 3 more ghost ladies, and then I get to do her. Let's see. Elaine said, I have a lot of respect for you. Just trying to fit my art and social media is hard for me. I want to add in YouTube, but I work full time. Have to get organized. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys watching a preview or preview of what the video I just recorded today. Actually, I recorded it last week. Forgot to turn on my little, autofocus, whatever. Yeah, it was a blurred video, so I had to reshoot it today. But anyway, I'll go ahead and tell you what that's about, because I've been struggling for a while. If you've been around for very long, I used to do 5 videos a week and the live stream and the podcast, the podcast too, and then the Patreon video. I had a lot of videos all the time. And after I ended up in the hospital, when was that? Summer of 2017. So 2 years ago, I've not gotten back onto it. And finally, I was sitting down recently going, oh, there's so much I want to do. I want to do at least 2 videos a week on top of the live stream and Patreon. I want to do all these things. I have so many ideas and I'm not accomplishing any of them. Why? So there are 2 major problems. Totally like letting you guys, or spilling the whole video, or so you're not going to have an interest in watching that when it goes live, but other than it being edited. But anyway, the 2 things that I ran into, one, I wasn't on a schedule anymore. After the surgeries, I just didn't really want to, I used to be on a really strict schedule to get that much work done. I had to, but after the surgeries, I got out of the habit of it, and I figured or realized it's kind of like when you are in the habit of going to the gym, you get sick and you take a week off, it is hard to get back into it. So I had a really, really hard time. I had 6 months of healing and surgeries. There were 3 surgeries in the hospital stay, and it was a long process to get better. And I was out of it for so long that when it came time to like, okay, time to start working again, I just never got my schedule. I never set up a new schedule. And the longer time went on, I started feeling like my schedule's a mess. There's so much I need to get done. I'm always late. I'm always behind on everything. I have so much I need to do, so much I need to accomplish. Always late. I feel like I work every day. Not I feel like I work. I do work every day. I'm not taking days off. This is ridiculous. All of that happening. I'm like, why? Why am I? But I'm accomplishing less than I used to. Why is that? Because I don't have a freaking schedule. So I sat down the other day. It was last week, and I wrote down, I listed, what do I want to accomplish every week, every day, and every month? Just made a list. Then I wrote a little number above them, like, okay, this activity should take me 2 hours. This one should take a half an hour. This one should take whatever. And then I went through and separated them by day, week, month. What needs to be done? This schedule creates, I'm going to be able to get the 2 videos done, no problem. I mean, I'll have to work hard on those days, the days that I'm working, but I also will have a full, like Sundays are going to be my free day, so I can paint my little character, my little mans. But I had to make a schedule. I had to do it. And it was overwhelming because it's like, there's so many things I need to get done. And so that's why I hadn't done the schedule. I just kept putting it off. I sat down once to do it and never did. And so this time I'm like, okay, that's it. I have to do this. So I made my schedule, found out if I stick to it, I can get so much more work done. And that was the thing. I had to make a schedule. The other thing, and I'll talk about this more in the video, was just being too much of a perfectionist. Of the way that I was doing my setup with the camera, it took me like an hour to set up. And then I didn't have time because I don't have a schedule. And so I just wouldn't make the video. I mean, so I would get the like art part done, but not the editing the video part done. And that's been my problem. So anyway, yeah, that is the video that I will be editing tomorrow, actually. But that making the schedule was the thing that changed everything, that allows me to get more done. And you think like with the schedule, oh, it's going to make me lose time because then I have to, I don't know. I always felt like I would have less time for some reason, even though that's not how schedules work. But the amount of time that I spend wandering and not accomplishing anything, I'm removing that element because I know, okay, tomorrow I have to do this at this time, this at that time, and my day is so much easier. It goes so much more smooth now. Smoothly, whatever. Let's see. Whoops, and that scrolled too far. Where were we? Gina said, great idea, thanks. It's a very organic way to keep the timeline in front of the client. Yes. I think that's the thing too, when you're dealing with clients, trying to find ways that it feels natural to contact them without like, I'm harassing you now, because it starts to feel weird. Let's see. Kelly said, I'm struggling with deciding when to be finished. I've been working on a charcoal piece forever, and my perfectionism keeps pushing me to make it look exactly like the reference tips. Put your reference photo away. Put that away. If you're at that stage where you're not sure if you're finished, put the reference photo away and now sit in front of the artwork and decide what you think would make it look better. Is there anything on it that would make it look better? No, then you're done. If you find something, you're like, you know what? I think if I made this area darker, this area lighter, then make that adjustment. But when I get to the very end of a piece, reference photos go away. No longer looking at them. You can also come back, flip your reference photo upside down and your artwork upside down to make adjustments as you need to. But yeah, at that very end, reference photo goes away. And you're an artist, not a photographer. What will make your work better? So you're not too dependent on that. Now, if you're working in hyperrealism where you're going for like an HD photograph look, which I don't do, then you're going to use the reference photo the entire time. But at that very end, once I have it in there, I mean, even now at the beak, I'm loosely going by it, but I don't need it to be exact. I just need it to be close. What will make mine look better? You're an artist, not a photographer. Now, that doesn't mean you can use that as an excuse not to do your best and not to make it look realistic, but you also, you know, you can get to, and it's funny you mentioned that right now, because that was the second part of the video that I'm editing tomorrow, is being a perfectionist, being so much of a perfectionist that you get nothing done, because that's what I've been doing. I want my video, like I was saying with the video camera, I want it to have that really nice shallow depth of field and all that, and the only way I can do that is with my DSLR. This camera can't do it. But it doesn't have a flip out. So I use a belt, like the belt for my pants, and some tape it to the back, the shelves behind me, and I'd have to keep repositioning and trying to get it to where I can see the back of the camera to see if I'm on frame or if it's even recording, because it turns itself off half the time when you're doing videos. It's not really meant for that. I mean, the work that was involved, and I was being such a perfectionist that I just stopped making videos. I didn't get it done. And you're kind of running into that now with your charcoal drawing. You're being such a perfectionist, you're not finishing it. So put the reference photo away and decide if there's anything else that you think would make yours look better, then make those changes. If not, you're done. That's what works for me anyway. Tammy's working on D&D minis tonight. I can't believe how much fun these things are. I didn't think I would get so much into these. Emerald said, thanks for answering. You are welcome. Thanks for asking. I'm a dork. Joe said, Warhammer has specific paints. They have... What are the brands that we're using? Hold on. I'll let you know, because it's sitting right here. We have a whole bucket of these. It's the same kind of container that I hold my airbrush. Actually, this could be for my airbrush. Are these the paints or is this my airbrush? I think these are the paints. The Warhammer store carries them, so I don't know. I'm sure it's for everything. These are Citadel, these paints. Those all need to be shaken up because I haven't painted much lately. Yeah, Citadel is the ones that we've been using. Oh, that paint smells nice. As I sit here getting high on Warhammer paint. Okay. Ugh. Art by Sam Peterson says, hi, sorry if this has been asked here, but what paper are you using? Join late. It's linked in the video description. It's the Strathmore 400 series, the medium and cream. It's cheap because this is supposed to be a video online, or the finished video will be focusing on getting into colored pencil on a budget with still using professional supplies. Eddie said, after more layering on this piece, will you be blending with, say, Gamsol or whatever you use? Yes, I've been blending with that. Absolutely. Let's see. Miriam said, schedules are good, but life interrupts sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing that's important with schedules is, and I've been having to do this with myself in walking, and this is kind of what got me on this kick. So one of the things that I've been saying for years, I want to get back into walking. Well, last year I did it, and I, for some reason, had in my head that I could just jump into 4 miles a day, like what I left off at years before. My body was like, you are too old for this. And no. Which is stupid. I worked up to 4 miles in the first place. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So, when I started with the walking like that, I realized you have to allow for, like, when I get into something, I'm like an all or nothing person. I can't cut back on sugar. I have to 100% cut it out. I have no self-control. And I do that with everything. If I'm going to start walking, I have to hit my goal every single day. And I've had to try to shift my way of thinking a little bit more. And in that, like, maybe I don't walk my full goal, and I'm slowly working up to that goal. I didn't just jump into 4 miles this time. So, because that made me fail. But as I'm working up to that, some days, maybe I only walk for 10 minutes and not 25 or 30 minutes. Maybe I just do one lap around the building. I mean, whatever. But I did it. I did one thing. And I think with schedules are good and life interrupts. Absolutely. It happens sometimes. The key is to not let you throw the schedule out because it didn't work out one day. Go back to it the next day. Get started the next day. And even with me in the new schedule, that was a real issue for me because my video, I was all ready, sit down to edit, and I see this entire video is out of focus because I had one setting on the camera wrong that I missed. I'm not going to let it make me throw my schedule out. I'm going to start back up the next day. I mean, you still want to stay with it as much as possible. And when you do these schedules, let's say you want your schedule, your goal is to do an hour of drawing or painting a night. And maybe you don't have time for that. Maybe you just sit down and do a quick sketch. You like look at a flower pot across the room. I sketched it on the sketchbook. They're done. I did something today. If you can kind of keep in the habit of that, even when, yes, life gets in the way, absolutely. Or your camera gets in the way, or your incompetency in using said camera. Then yeah, but you still want to keep up with it as much as you can and not just throw the schedule out, which is what I tend to do. If I can't hit my goal every day, I'm just going to forget about it. But that's where it comes. starts being ineffective. If you can still do as much as possible, then it's good. But yes, you're right. Life definitely does get in the way. Oops, and scroll too far. Where were we? Elaine said, thanks for sharing about the schedule. I will still watch your video. Thank you. That one I'm going to do a little bit fancier with the editing, obviously, than me rambling here. Let's see. Danielle said, I just returned from major back surgery. Had a total of 12 surgeries. Oh, wow. I ruptured 16 discs in a fall. Oh, my gosh. Just started drawing again. Very painful at the moment. I am sorry to hear that. I hope you heal fast. Let's see. Tammy said, will golden acrylics work just as well as Warhammer paints for minis? I'm doing a test on small skeletons before painting my main mini, but I'm curious if you tried goldens too. I've not tried. The only paint I've ever used for the minis, this was my first, time playing with these, and that was what my husband had gone out and bought all the contrast paints, and then I was like, nah, the contrast paints that's too basic for me. I want the real ones. So I stayed with the brand that they use. I really don't know if it makes a difference or not, because I know some acrylics, acrylic paint is plastic, and sometimes when you paint, like when I've used like Liquitex on plastic, it won't stick well. Like it just slides around. But if you've got a primer on it first, you should be okay. I don't know. Answer, I don't know. I am no help. Okay, let's get some of the blue in here now. Now, this is not going to stay this blue. I'm going to take my wax-based white pencil, the Derwent Drawing Chinese white, and go over this for highlights. This is just kind of a base here. Melody said, I am new to your channel and new to colored pencils. What are your recommendations for beginners? As far as like brand of paints or pencils, my absolute favorite are the Derwent Lightfast. And these are not in any order. These are just like, I love them all. Karakash Luminance and my Faber-Castell Polychromos. Brain shut off. And my recommendation when you get started, if you can afford the full set, the set of 120 Polychromos, great, go for it. If you can't, I would rather see you get a set of 12, which is what I'm working on here. Just get that set of 12 and of good pencils versus people go onto Amazon and they find these, I can get a set of 150 of this crappy pencil for $20 or $30. I'll get those. Don't waste your money. I would recommend get good pencils. Get a small set of good pencils versus a inexpensive set of crap. So my favorites, Faber-Castell Polychromos, the Derwent Lightfast pencils, and the Karakash Luminance are my favorite. Now, the Derwent Lightfast, I'm not sure how they've got it broken up in colors now on the smaller sets. You may have to buy them individually to get colors, because I know the initial set of 36 they released was kind of weird, and I wouldn't start someone off with just those colors, so that would be the only thing that would hold me back on those. I'm not sure how they've got those colors separated now. But definitely, I can say that, like what I'm using here, when choosing a set of 12, I went with the Faber-Castell Polychromos was a really good set to start with. And then if you look at the supply list in the video description, those are all tools that I recommend to get started. Now, there's better papers. You can get bigger sets of pencils. There are other things, but just to get started, it's a great place to start. Molly said, my brother works at a very posh pet resort, and they've agreed for me to put up a sign advertising my pet portraits. I came up with that idea because of your marketing advice. That is awesome. That is a really good place to do that. You figure most people who are taking their pet to a pet resort probably are going to invest money into things that, related around that pet. So that's awesome. I used to do that at animal hospitals. And the thing with animal hospitals, though, versus a pet resort, most of the time, if people are spending much time at an animal hospital, they're probably a bit broke from their vet bills. I'm dealing with that with mine right now. So they probably aren't in there looking to spend a lot of money, but a pet resort, genius. Pet training facility, anything like that, great. And I'm not saying don't do it with the animal hospital. I did that as well, and I did get jobs doing that. But no, that's a great idea. If you want to do pet portraits, here's another tip. If you're really into like dogs or your thing, go to dog shows. Get a booth at a dog show. That is where you're going to hit your actual like exact target market versus, let's say you go to an all-around art show and you're trying to get commissions for your pet portraits. only a handful of those people are really into their animals enough to be interested in having a portrait done. Whereas if you go to the dog show, those people are obsessed with their dog. Trust me, I showed my dogs, I know. But I mean, that really is a good place to go. If you do horse portraits, try to get in at a horse show. Those are the places that you want to hit your target market. Get as many people interested in what you're doing as possible. The generalized art, like general art show, I never did real well with getting commissions. I mean, I got a few, but not like at the dog shows or advertising to people who have dogs, so, or show their dogs. Let's see. Ria said, how do you film your live streams? Given that they're usually a couple hours long and the camera batteries don't last that long. I'm sorry if it sounds silly. No, not at all. I use webcams. Now, when I film, so let's say this camera is going, this is not the camera you're actually watching on. I think you can kind of see it. It's a Canon something. I can't see it right now. But that one is recording, but it's not what you're watching on. I'm just recording that to the SD card. What you're actually watching on is a webcam. I've got two webcams going, hitting my webcams, and those just plug in with a USB to the computer, so there's no batteries or anything like that. But the Canon, as far as batteries go, it's always plugged in to a power source as I record. And the reason that I go with this versus a DSLR that a lot of people use when they record their artwork is a DSLR wants to stop like every 10 or 20 minutes, I forget what it is, whereas a video camera will continue recording longer or, indefinitely. So until your SD card runs out. So that's why I record with that. But what you're watching on for live streaming, these are just my webcams. They don't look amazing, but they work. Let's see. Melody says, awesome, thank you. I have Prismacolor currently. Not my favorite, but you can still produce beautiful work with them. So that's a good start. Let's see. Emerald said, I have 150 Prismas, full I can never say that word, a couple polys, some skin tone color soft, WH Spectrum, Smith Spectrum, okay, you're just listening to everything. Have you used Castle Art pencils? No, I have not. You got lots of pencils. You had fun shopping. Let's see. Okay. Let's get some more pigment on here. And while you look at that and go, okay, it's blue, go ahead and blend. Yeah, but I don't have a lot of pigment, and if I don't, it's going to look grainy and gritty. Got to get that pigment on there first. Here, I don't really have to worry about the direction I'm going too much because there's so many lines in there you wouldn't see if I had like a harsh start or stop point. So I can be a little bit lazy. We've got these streaks. Now watch like when you're doing something like this on a beak, these streaks need to be curved. The beak is curved. Don't just do straight lines or you're going to flatten that out. Really watch for those sorts of things. And I don't need each little ridge to be exact, but I do want them to be close. At least go in the right direction. I'm going to lightly take that black over the darker areas. And then go ahead and blend that out. Once I figure out where I put, there it is, my brush and my OMS. Brandy said, when do you think you will be doing another pan pastel colored pencil piece? I'm thinking about trying one myself. If you're on Patreon, we just did one last weekend. We had a Patreon paint along live stream with that. I'm not sure when the next one will be for YouTube, but if you are on Patreon, that is available now. And that's like 3.5 hours, right around there, 3 hours, 20 minutes, something like that, long. And it's step-by-step. We did, where is it? It's back there somewhere. We did a giraffe, and so the background was pan pastels, and then the base of the giraffe was pan pastel. So there's that one. But as far as for YouTube, I'm not sure when the next one of that will be. Fun medium, fun combination for sure. Emerald said, I built up the collection over the years. Your Polys versus Prisma video was graded by us a couple of years ago, but my budget can only stretch to the Prismas at the time. Hey, use what you've got. If that's what you have, go for it. And I mean, I learned to use colored pencil with Prisma. And then when I got the other brands, it was just so much easier because I'd been I felt like when I used Prismas, I was spending more time fighting with the pencils than using them. But no, use whatever you've got. That's cool. And does it really matter here as I blend this if I smudge the black into the blue? I just wanted a tint of blue. I'm not trying to make it like light baby blue or anything like that. So I can just smudge that black right in there. Now, let's say I had black and it was up against yellow. Then I've got to be careful. Blend the yellow separate from the black or you'll smudge it and turn into a green mess when you use odorless mineral spirits for blending like this. So this gives me a decent base. I'm going to let this dry and I can start coming on with my more definite black and white values to get the gray tones. So let's see. Molly's Fine Art said, hi Lisa, what do you use for lighting on your easel? It is in the video description. I'm almost positive I put it, I meant to anyway. Actually, let's double check. Yes, Easel Daylight lamp. That is the last thing on the video description supply list. That is wonderful. It blows me out. I mean, you can see I'm way overexposed and I can't really fix that if I want my artwork lit properly. But man, you can see everything and you can adjust it by just touching the ends of it, how much, how bright they are. So definitely love those a lot. And it's fairly inexpensive. One of the things that I really like, I had been using the Light for years and mine, I want to say it was like $125, $150. I bought it in 2008, I think. And I got it at Michael's, super expensive. That put a dent in my budget. But this is like a third of the price of what I paid for that one. And it works. I like it better. It doesn't get hot. My Light would get a little bit hot. Sometimes I had to be careful when I reached up to grab it, or to adjust. But this one, I've really been happy with this thing. I've been using it for 2 years now, I think. Okay, still have to wait for that to dry a little bit more. You don't typically want to, like, ever take your pencils when that paper is still a little bit wet. I can tell it's wet just because it's cold. But when you put your pencils on the wet paper, you're going to damage the tooth of the paper even more. So I want to let that dry all the way so I'm not hurting it. I mean, one of the things when you work in colored pencil this way, you're constantly working to maintain the integrity of the paper, to not damage it. Because if I damage it, one, in this paper it's thin enough, I could put a hole straight through it. But the other, if I'm using a better paper, the problem is if I flatten it out, it's only going to take so many layers. So you want to be careful with that. Marika said, how do you decide backgrounds for a subject? Like what will complement and flatter the subject the most and make it look the best it can? I struggle picking the perfect background. I usually decide this with Photoshop. I will put the subject into Photoshop, cut it out, and try on some different colored backgrounds. Like I just do a Google search since I'm not going to copy it exactly just to get an idea of backgrounds. I just take whatever there to see what look better with blues or reds or, whatever. You can try it on. And this is what I did also for pet portraits. I used to, when I would take commissions, I would take the animal like a horse and cut him out, try on 20 different backgrounds and send it to the client and let them choose what they like or start to narrow it down. Okay, I like these ones. I don't like these ones. Okay, that gives me something to work on. Let's try another set. But yeah, I would just cut it out in Photoshop and pop different backgrounds in to see what was most visually appealing. In this case, I did not do that. I was going to go all black and then realized I didn't want that seemed a little silly. And so I started with the magenta just to pull in extra color. I knew I did not want green because this is so much green in this one. But yeah, that's where this one I didn't do that with, but I usually do. Let's see. Joe said, is that the same lamp you use to light your acrylic and palettes when filming? No, that one is actually on my floor. Oh, let's see if I can reach it. Everything is on my floor right now. And it's tangled up. Hold on. That one is about $15. It's much less expensive. It's not as strong. I don't know if it is plugged in. This one, you touch the back and it turns it on. It's not as strong, but it would work too. It would definitely work. This one has two. It's basically like this, but white. And it has one pole comes out this way. One lamp comes out or lamp, not pole, but it come out either way. So I have a little bit more like, it goes wider with this. If I'm working on a big acrylic painting, this one's too little. I'm going to have a hard time lighting the whole thing where this one kind of spreads out better. But this is the one that I use on my palette typically. Also a nice lamp. And that one it just plugs into a USB outlet or plug. Art by Sam Patterson, said, have you ever heard of Lisa Erickson. She is a surrealist artist and is incredible. I have not. Or maybe I have and just don't remember names because I have a problem with that. We're lucky I remember my own name. Okay, let's see. Is this dry enough? I think so. So the two pencils, and this is why I wanted to use my Luminance, or not Luminance, my Derwent Drawing Chinese White. The Polychromos White, while I like it and I'm glad I have it and I use it, it is not very opaque. So there are certain times where I just want to lighten something up. It's good. You know, I can get the little details in here just a little bit lighter. But if I really want something to show up, I'm going to switch over to this guy. The difference is incredible. A wax-based versus the oil-based. These are just too translucent to go on top of the light areas and really show up. So that's why whenever I use Polychromos, always have a wax-based. It could be a Prismacolor, it could be a Karakash Luminance, which I like way better than Prismacolor, or then this one. The Derwent Drawing Chinese White is going to be your most opaque of the wax-based colored pencils. Ercy said, have you heard the light bulbs by... I can't even say that. I have not. That's a lot of words I don't know how to pronounce. All in a row. It's like you're messing with me. So here we've got another, let's see, it was right here, I think. Or right around there. See, it doesn't really show up that much, but if I come through with this guy, I can really make that stand out nicely. And I do push a little bit harder with these pencils, with the wax-based pencils, or when I use white, than I do with the other pencils, so they really show up nicely. Now this may be too light, so I'm going to switch over to the Polychromos to get these streaks without it being too bright. See, that's not showing up enough. We'll go back to the wax-based. This whole area is a lot lighter. Just lightly go over that. Now, here's the thing. When you get to a point where you're like, I can't get my lights light enough, chances are it's because your darks next to it are not dark enough. So that's what I'm going to do now. My lights are as light as they're going to get, but I can make them appear to be a lot lighter by making the darks next to it way darker. And it can also define shapes a bit more with this pencil. Now the drawback to the Derwent Drawing Chinese White, it's very soft lead. It breaks very easily, it's soft, but it's thick. Like it's a really thick lead, so you're not gonna get fine detail with that. That's why I'm gonna use this black one to come back in between. Nancy said, I have a 24 count set of Venus Spectra color I bought in the 70s. They're similar to Derwent Color Soft. Prismacolor bought them out. I'm not a fan of Derwent Color Soft. Derwent Light Fast, yes. Derwent Pro Color, yes. Derwent Color Soft, no, those are not okay. They do not work for my techniques. They're good for like quick sketches. Now, right now, everything is too sketchy. I've got like bars on his beak. So what I'm going to do is start coming through here and getting things a bit more solid where they need to be. And I do not care if everything's exact. I just need close. Got a little detail in here, not too much, so I don't want to go too light there. I'm going to go ahead and blend that out, and then I'm going to come back through with highlights. So now I'm going to soften things a little bit. That's cool. Lucy's. I'm actually not in the market though. I'm trying really hard not to buy new lights or new supplies if what I have works. I've been on a I need to save all the money kick as much as possible, says the person who bought all those My Little Ponies. But now I'm like, okay, I've got to save. So I can't go out and buy stuff if what I currently have is working well for me. Do you know where they're located, Ursies? Okay, we'll let that dry and I can come back through and do highlights after. And all of the supplies I'm using tonight are listed in the video description. Gina said, I used to really love a particular brand of Derwent colored pencil that I received as a gift in the 80s. They were soft but not waxy and laid down color well. Oh, wow. I wonder what they were. I've used the Derwent Artist pencils too. Those were decent. They sent me some to test, and I thought those were decent, but then I never really heard anything else back about them. The Derwent Procolor and the Lightfast are my absolute favorite. Like performance-wise, love them both. They're very similar performance-wise, but the Derwent Procolor, only about half of them were Lightfast, a little bit more than half. So that was a disappointment. The Derwent Lightfast, obviously, all of them are Lightfast. So you've tried to use their Color Soft as a replacement, but don't like them. Any suggestion? Not to use Color Soft. That would be my suggestion. I seriously really do not like Color Soft. Actually, my dislike for Color Soft, my glasses are lopsided. My dislike for Color Soft led to my obsession with Inktense because I'd used it once with the Smart Art Box and I loved it. And so Derwent, they saw my bad review of Color Soft and they were like, we're sorry you didn't like them. We heard you like Inktense. We'll send you some more Inktense. So that was actually awesome and how I ended up having like a relationship with that company who I have so much respect for because like some of the stuff you don't see behind the scenes are how much they work with other artists and contact us and not just me, like other artists will send samples like try this out and let us know what you think. They are constantly trying to improve their products, which I love. Like I have so much respect for that. Prismacolor doesn't do that. So they're wonderful, wonderful company. Like, because they really care what artists want. Like the fact that they made their Lightfast thing is because that's what we told them. They came out with the Procolor and we're like, but they're not Lightfast. If you want professionals to use these, they need to be Lightfast. So what did they do? Made Lightfast. So I love that about Derwent. But yeah, I would try if you're like I've not used the other ones, but try their Derwent Lightfast. If you don't care if they're Lightfast, Procolor will work. But if not, try their Lightfast one. Like they say that they're an oil-based, but they're a much softer lead. They blend much easier than the oil-based polychromos. Polychromos are a very, very hard lead. I find that the Derwent Procolor and the Derwent Lightfast feel somewhere in between wax and oil-based, so they're not super hard, but they don't break nonstop. But they blend really nicely, like the wax-based do. So you may want to give those a try if you wanted to stick with Derwent. Ursi said the Lumaram, whatever I can't pronounce, is in the States. Oh, and the website is Lumaram, I don't know, .com. R30 frosted works good for, Well, if I ever need a new light, good to know. Elaine said, are Pan Pastels Lightfast? They are, and they have on the back, where are mine? Okay, I can't reach them. The back of them have a star system that tells you what the Lightfast rating is. Some of them are not completely Lightfast. Most of them are, but I mean, they have the ratings on there, so you know which ones you're choosing. Molly said, just designed a surreal drawing inspired by you. I put it on my Instagram story and tagged you. Oh, awesome, actually. I mean, I'm waiting for this to dry. I may as well go look. And YouTube notified me that I'm live. You'd think I'd be aware, being that I'm doing it. Okay. What am I looking for? Instagram. I don't see it yet. Or it's not notifying me. Maybe if I start it over. Let's close all and reopen. These are all like older notifications. No, these are newer. I don't see the tag yet. maybe, how did you tag it? Sometimes tagging this way will come up. There's a blank post. That's not it. Well, I will probably have to look at it later because I'm not getting it. I wonder how much somebody has the username on Instagram of just Lachri, which was taken. So I have Lachri or Lisa_Lachri. I wonder how many times that person gets tagged when it's intended for me, and they're like, "Why is this person tagging me?" Random thoughts. Okay. Let's see. While we wait for this to dry, let's get caught up on some questions here. Daniel said, I just purchased a set of 72 Inktense for $71 and change off Amazon. Now Blix is $129 and some change. Yeah, in that, I've gotten really good deals on Amazon, and you can also get really screwed on price on Amazon. You really have to watch and compare prices. I usually put things that I'm interested in my cart on Amazon because randomly, you'll have what you just had happen, where the price just drops. You want to buy it then. But then other times, something that, let's say, Dick Blick has for $10, Amazon's like $30. So you definitely have to watch those prices. But that's awesome. Good for you. Emerald said, when I've saved enough, got to buy college textbooks first, I want to get polys and luminance. Which would you recommend first? Sorry to be a pain. You are not a pain. I appreciate if you guys don't ask questions, this gets to be a very boring live stream. So no, I appreciate your questions. What are you trying to do? I would say, I got polychromos first, and I was perfectly happy using those along with a white wax-based pencil. But when I went to do portraits, I don't like the polychromos for portraits for skin tones. I can't get them to be smooth enough. I always got that grainy, gritty look when working on regular hot press watercolor paper with on sanded paper with powder blender. Then I like the polychromos. So that would be my first question. Are you going to use it with powder blender on sanded paper, or are you going to use it on watercolor paper? If you're going to use it on watercolor paper, I would say if you want tiny details, like for animals, I will normally reach for my polychromos first. When I want the smooth blending for the backgrounds, I would prefer a wax-based pencil. So it really depends on what you're doing. I'm not sure which one to go with first. If you already have, I don't remember if you said, if you already have Prismacolor like I did, because I have Prismacolor to start with, get the polychromos. You already have a wax base. And then get Caran-d'Ache later. But yeah, that would be my way to go if you already have Prisma. If you don't, I would go with the polychromos and at least get a few, the skin tones and white colors and anything that you're going to want a lot of smooth blending for. Maybe some of the browns and tan colors. Get some wax-based pencils of those would be a good way to go. And then just mix the two. Let's see. Nancy said, your YouTube led me to Derwent and let go of Prismacolor Crumbly. Yeah, I'm not a Prismacolor fan. I used them for years. You can use them, and there's still artists who prefer Prismacolor and make phenomenal artwork. Phenomenal. So it's not like you can't do amazing things with Prismacolor. I don't mean to give that impression. I did not enjoy the fact that you look at them wrong and they're like, I broke. Good luck sharpening me. And when you sharpen me, I'm going to break again and again and again because I'm a jerk. Quality control issues there where the wood casing. So on a good pencil, perfectly smooth. You can't see it on the back of this, but on a pencil where you can see the Prismacolor, that lead should be centered. Theirs are not. And I've got some that looks like a boat where I went to the art supply store to buy them individually. They were so warped, so badly made. And when you're dealing with a pencil that's going to be prone to breakage anyway, because it is such a soft lead. Now, I don't criticize them for being a soft lead. That's part of what makes people love them. They blend so smooth. But if you have a soft lead, you've got to have a good case. They don't. Whereas when you go with Derwent, maybe you can get the tape off while I'm waiting for this to dry now. But Derwent, what are these? They're Derwent Drawing. These are one of the softest pencil leads I've ever used, but they don't break every time you sharpen them because they're made well. You've got a nice casing, everything's centered, it's made well. So that's my main problem with Prismacolor is a quality control issue. And every time I talk about Prismacolor, I get somebody in the comments going, I've never had them break. Yeah, you've probably drawn 3 things in your life. I've been drawing for, using Prismacolor for 20 years. I've had, I go through enough pencils that I've got a bigger sample size, but it always makes me laugh because I can tell it's a younger person who's like, mine have never broken on me. yeah, the difference in, you know, you don't have as big of a sample size. I'm constantly having to replace them because I burn through them quickly because I use them a lot. And the amount of broken leads or problematic pencils is insane with Prisma. You may get lucky and have a set that was made great for whatever reason that day. They had good wood casings. The people who manufactured them did a good job. Or you may get a set where it's like little boat shapes because the pencils are so badly worked. That's the problem I have with Prismacolor, is the inconsistencies there. That they're not all light fast, so that's another strike against them. And then there's third one. Oh, the wax bloom is annoying, but the wax bloom you can spray over the top. I mean, that's not a huge deal, but I could never get the detail I wanted. I couldn't get as many layers. I can do way more layers with Karakash Luminance, with Derwent Pro Color, Derwent Lightfast, or with the Faber-Castell Polychromos. All of those I can get way more layers than I ever could with the Polychrom or with the Prismacolor. And because of how I work, I want more layers. You may not. It depends on how you work. But yeah, so it's so funny because every time I talk about Prismacolor, I get the comments, so here we go again, bashing Prismacolor. For good reason. I've gone through enough. I mean, the thousands of pencils I've bought of Prismacolor, I've got a good sample size to tell you they're large amounts of them are defective. If you got one set, you never had a problem, good for you. That is awesome. My first set from the 90s, I didn't have any problems with. But when they changed where they were manufacturing them, they got bought out by another company. It just all went down the drain. So anyway, there's my Prismacolor rant. But again, if you have Prismacolor and you're watching this and go, oh man, that's what I have, use them. You can use them. They're still a decent pencil. I think that they're overpriced for their quality control issues. That's how I learned to use colored pencil. You can still use them. Don't feel like, man, I can't use these. Then you absolutely can. I don't want to discourage you in any way. Plenty of amazing, amazing artists use them and create phenomenal work. So don't be discouraged by my dislike of them. That's just why I don't use them anymore. Okay, let's see. Gina said, great, thanks. Yeah, I was disappointed I couldn't get the others. Maybe I should write them and ask what they were, if they're so good with artists. Oh, yeah, with Joy, I would, yeah, contact them. They've been good with getting back to people that I know of that did contact them. So, yeah, I would do that. Took me a minute to realize what we were talking about. Scroll too far. Hold on. There we go. Molly said her username on Instagram is Painted Harp Studio. Let's see if it got tagged me yet or not. I'll look it up after the stream if not. No, it's not showing the tag yet. When? Usually it lets you know, like, so-and-so tagged you in a post, but I'm not seeing it right now. I'll look it up later. Still scrolling though, just in case. Yeah, I'll look that up later. Thank you. Next we have, I don't know how to say your name. Any tips on doing a drawing based on a blurry reference photo or low quality photos? I can barely see the values in the photo, making my drawing a bit flat. Okay, so my recommendation is going to depend on, are you a newer artist or a very experienced artist? A very experienced artist who has drawn from good photos over and over and over again can take a crap photo and make it look amazing because they know, like in the case of the beak, like let's say, this actually will look way better later, but it's an amazing photo. But let's say it was a bad photo. I've drawn enough bird beaks. That sounds weird, but I've drawn enough beaks that I can take a crappy one and I know what it should look like and I can make it look realistic. But if I've never drawn the beak before, how am I going to know? I don't have that experience. So I would say if you're a newer artist, try to stick with good reference photos as much as possible. Once you get more advanced, once you've done that subject a few more times, you can use lesser photos and make them look better. The other thing that you can do right now, if you are determined, this is the photo I'm going to do. Let's say you have a photo of a yellow lab and it's terrible. Yellow labs all pretty much look the same, well, with the exception of their weight, because everyone overfeeds their animal and thinks that it should be shaped like a pig, but they shouldn't, by the way. But anyway, let's say a healthy lab in a good way, they're all going to look about, pretty close to where you could take that photo in that position, use that and go look up online a yellow lab and use that to see what the details should look like. So that is another way that you can go. If you're drawing a flamingo and you just love the angle, you love the lighting, but it's really blurry, out of focus, you can't see what you're doing, you've never drawn flamingos before, go get a good reference photo of a flamingo and use that to see what those details should look like on your photo. Carol Ann said, what class do you play on WoW? Just downloaded and I'm playing during the live stream. Mostly I play a Holy Priest and Holy Priest or a Warlock are my two that I normally play. How much is WoW a month now? I haven't played in a while. I just renewed mine last night, which I probably shouldn't have. I probably should just get work done. But I like to play it like in between, like when I'm tired and want to veg out because I don't have TV. But I paid $14.99. I just do the month. I don't have it renew automatically because I may want to not play for a month or whatever. So it was $14.99 for one. It comes out to like 16 something after tax for a month of game time. Kathy said, can you show us how the horse project is coming along? Which horse project? Do you mean the Inktense? That one's done. That one's already on Patreon. Do I have it? Where is it? Where did I put? 1 second. Let me find it. I don't know where I left it. Oh, that's not it. Huh. I thought it was taped to this board before I started using it. Oh, maybe I left it in the... Here it is. Yeah, here we go. It won't look good under this lighting. But if you mean the Inktense, this, you're not going to be able to see anything. Hold on. There's his head. That looks terrible. And his face. This is the worst lighting in the history of ever. That looks terrible. I need to post the final photo. I should post that over on Instagram. I don't know why I haven't been posting my final projects lately. I need to do that. I need to set that. I actually didn't include into my not my budget, my schedule. I need to get on that. Let's see. But if you are on Patreon, the tutorial is already up. Let's see. Will colored pencil work well on 140-pound cold press watercolor paper as opposed to hot press? It will not work as well. What happens when you're working on, actually, while I keep just getting up and walking away, let's go ahead and grab cold press and I'll show you if I can find some. This will be more extreme, but let's see. This is rough paper. This is more rough than cold press. So it's not the best example, but I think it'll be easier for you to see the difference. What happens on a, do I have any that are kind of junk? This is, again, more extreme. It wouldn't be this severe on cold press, but this gives you the idea, or an idea. See how when I go over it, how it's bumpy? You can see all the little white dots in there. It's really rough looking. Let's see if it shows up for you. Yeah. You're dealing with the texture there. It's going to be hard to blend that out. Now, cold press isn't this rough. It's somewhere between this and a more hot press type paper. But cold press is going to be so bumpy, it's going to be really hard for you to smooth that out. It's going to be very rough. Now, maybe that's a look that you want. Maybe you want something to look rough for like a sketch, a loose style. Great, go for it. But for something, if you're trying to get a lot of detail in this, with colored pencil, I do not recommend cold press. Let's see. Next, we have Sam said, I don't like using razor blades or X-Acto knives to sharpen pencils. What do you use? I don't like them either because I will lose my fingers. I am very clumsy. I'm not allowed to play with sharp things. I'm using a Coom little handheld sharpener. This is my favorite right now. That or the X-Acto School Pro electric sharpener works good. But this one, this is what I normally use because they're very inexpensive. They're easy. I mean, to replace the blades or just to get a new one with new blades, they're my favorites right now. Let's see. Art by Sam Patterson said, at what point do you consider someone a professional artist? I'm teaching art classes. I have been since I was 15, but I still don't feel like I'm at a place where I can call myself a pro. If you're making money, you're a pro. I mean, you could be a professional burger flipper at McDonald's and you're doing it professionally because you're making money off it. I mean, if you're selling your work, you're a pro. If you're teaching, I mean, I don't know if you would call that, I guess. I mean, you're making your income with art, so sort of. But yeah, I mean, if you're making money off of it, that's when I consider it as being a professional. Like, that's how I make my income, so I'm a professional artist. That, at least how, I mean, there may be arguments looking at it a different way, but that's how I look at it. A hint I learned by totally forgetting I had art supplies in my car. They were Prisma, heat them up roughly 110 degrees temperature on the inside of the car. The rest did not break. Now, that does work. And what some people, this is the thing with Prisma. Yes, there are tricks and tips to making them work and fixing them when they start breaking inside. One, leaving them in a hot car. But if they get too hot in the car, they can just melt and spill out of the pencil. That happens. Putting them in the oven. Some people have done that. But same thing, you've got to get that perfect balance of not too hot, just a little, you've got that balance and it works. But my thing is, I just want my art supplies to do what they're supposed to do. I don't have time to fix their crap quality. Like that's not, if I'm giving you money, I want it to do what it's supposed to do. So, and what had happened is I got to where, if you look back at my old videos, I hardly ever had anything with colored pencil until I switched over to or polychromos. Because I got so sick. Every time I sat down to draw, it was like, okay, what pencil am I going to go have to heat up in the oven now? What pencil am I going to have to do this to fix? What pencil's going to keep breaking on me? Oh God, one just hit the carpet floor. That broke. I mean, things like that where I was just so sick of, if I sat down to work with colored pencil, I felt like I was sitting down to fight with my supplies. Whereas if I wanted to paint with acrylics or oils, they just did what they're supposed to do. Graphite pencil, they just do what they're supposed to do. I'm not going to fight with them. And that was when I was like, I'm just done with Prismacolor. Yes, there are tips you can do to make them work. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to put that extra work. I just want to be able to pick up the pencil and go. So, but yeah, no, the car thing would work. But I've known of people that had the car thing work too well and all of the lead kind of spilled out. So there's that. Let's see. Well, I've got a bunch of questions to catch up on. Actually, I can stop this. I'm probably not going to do much more on the beak there. Melody said, oh my God, that is one of the biggest issues I have with Prismacolor is the breakage. I got lucky that my set came with 2 blacks because I sharpened one of them to the nub the first week. Yeah, you've got to use the right sharpener. If your sharpener is remotely dull, Prisma's not going to handle it, where another pencil won't care. So that's a thing. If you drop them, they're just so, yeah, no, they're not for me. Elaine said, how much is WoW now? I haven't played in so long. I just get sucked in and have a hard time stopping. Yeah, that $14.99 a month is what I do. If you sign up for like more months at once, you can get a discount, but I don't usually do that. I just pay monthly. Emerald said, I haven't had them break, but there are a lot of warped ones in my set, and I use a knife to sharpen the lead because I'm worried about sharpeners. Well, start the dreaded breakage. And sometimes, they're you fight with them, that's for sure. Molly said, just reposted it. See if it came up yet. Are you sure you're tagging me? Or is it coming up? Yeah, that is not showing up for me. Ooh. Somebody did a tutorial of my snowy owl, and it's entirely possible theirs looks better than mine. Ooh, somebody did my giraffe. Same person. And it looks amazing. That's always cool to see. Anyway, I'll have to look that up. Are you tagging the Lisa _ Lachri? Because, yeah, Lachri was taken. Emerald said, wow, the horse is gorgeous. Thank you. Joe said, curious, have you talked to Fredericks about the poorly stretched 8x24 Nature Core boards? Thinking of ordering one in a smaller size to try. Go with a smaller size. I won't do the 18x24 again, just because I've had, it's happened enough times, and it's not that they came to me ruined. Like, I dropped something on it, and now it's damaged. So, yeah, I don't know as far as restretching. I actually forgot about it until you mentioned it right now. I do need to ask them. Christy Rebecca Fine Art said, can't wait to see the macaw finished. I was the one who tagged you on MeWe about the colored pencil piece I did with the same reference. Great minds think alike. Oh, did I see it yet? Have I seen it? I was looking at something of yours on MeWe, which you guys should follow on because MeWe's amazing, and it's like Facebook when Facebook used to be good, but even better because they're starting out with really good privacy policy, which Facebook never did. You should definitely follow Christy on MeWe because her work is amazing. I was looking at that earlier. I don't remember the macaw though. Anyway. Whoops, scroll too far. Robert said, what do you like the most, pencils or brush painting? Brush painting because I can get things done so quickly, but when I want to work on little detail stuff, then I really enjoy the pencils. I wouldn't want to have to choose just one. I would get bored if I could only use one or the other. Paris said, my art account didn't get much value on Insta. I posted my art for sale on Fine Art America, but didn't see it sell any original yet. How can I sell my originals? There's no gallery for new artists near me. So you have to build up a following. This is not like that attitude, build it and they will come. Does not work, especially not with the internet. That is not how things work. You have to build up that following and it takes time. So with Instagram, are you using proper hashtags? So like with this guy, when I post him when he's done, I'm going to tag macaw, green wing macaw, or not, he's not a green wing, sorry, military macaw, colored pencil. I may tag the Colored Pencil magazine. What can you tag where more people are more likely to see the work? You know, using those hashtags, that's the best way you can go on Instagram. Now, Instagram is owned by Facebook, and so they're filtering and not showing your work to as many people, and so it can be a bit harder to build up now. But using the proper hashtags on Instagram is the way to go. Now, I've never sold anything through Instagram that I know of, unless somebody then found me and went and looked me up on my website. So that's possible. But you have, and the same with Fine Art America. Fine Art America, people don't just browse through, like eBay would be what I would suggest. eBay, people may browse through and find your work. You're more likely to get a sale that way. Fine Art America, not usually. If someone bought from me from Fine Art America, it's because I sent them there from Facebook, from my email newsletter, from my website, from somewhere that somebody, you know, everything, all of these platforms kind of work together. But if you can't just put it up there and expect it to sell. And I know Fine Art America, I think they want to try to make people think that's how it works. It doesn't, not with them. There's too much on there. Most people don't just go browse Fine Art America looking for stuff. They went there because the artist sent them there, or someone shared something from the artist or something like that. That is how you get the majority of the people. You have to find them on other platforms and then send them to those platforms. Instagram's a little different. Like I said, I've never sold anything that I'm aware of through Instagram. That's just where I market or tell people on Instagram, like, go to my website, go to Fine Art America, go wherever. Then I use that to send them to the places that I sell stuff. That's what works for me. I have heard of people who did great selling on Instagram. Actually, I bought a painting from an artist on Instagram, so I know it works. I just don't market it myself that way. But as far as getting a following, you've got to get the following first. If people don't see you, if your following is not very big on Instagram, who are you selling to then? If there's only 20 people, chances of one of those 20 people wanting to buy, not as likely. So you've got to build that up, and that happens through using proper hashtags and posting regularly too. Let's see. Whoops. There we go. Too far. Again. Miriam said, exactly why should I do their job of fixing it, talking about the Prismacolors, when I'm paying good money for their product? Lisa, are we their quality control? Apparently. And the funny thing is they don't care. They know there are problems with that. They're not, Prismacolor is not an art supply company. They're owned by Rubbermaid or something like that, like one of those. They're just a small little branch in a very large company. And that very large company doesn't care about what artists are looking for. They've got, for the most part, people just know the name Prismacolor, and they've been banking on that for years. So now that it's getting easier and easier for artists to find colored pencils from other places, I don't know if they'll step up their quality control issues or not. Probably not. They don't, their colored pencils are not where they're making the majority of their money. They're not whereas Derwent, if artists don't like their supplies, that company goes out of business. With Prismacolor, they're owned by, I want to say Rubbermaid, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know, some big company. They're not the company won't die if they're producing bad pencils, because that's not what the company makes most of its money on. So yeah, I don't have a lot of respect for them. Elaine said, have you been through a time when things didn't seem to sell? If so, how do you keep positive and keep going? So I'm a little bit different. I have not focused on selling in a very long time, and I need to start. I keep saying I need to start, and I never do. You have to market that in order for it to work. And I guess I can relate back to when the stock market crashed. So I was selling things pretty well on eBay. Pretty good. I can speak well, grammar. But I was doing pretty well on eBay until around 2006, 2007. Then the stock market crashed, and it just stopped. Nothing would sell. So that was frustrating, but luckily I sold. Whenever, as an artist, ideally, have a lot of other, eggs in many baskets. If I was only making my money through eBay, I'd be screwed. I also was making my money from commissions that I was getting through social media, through, where else was I? Teaching. I was teaching regularly. That was back in California. So that is how I kind of was able to float by, not getting those sales. And then I shifted to where now teaching is really where all my attention is focused. So I haven't been focused on selling at all. But that's ideally, you know, when you've got your eggs in lots of baskets, it doesn't hurt you as much when things aren't selling. But I can't give much more advice than that because I haven't really tried very hard to sell anything in a while. Like I'll throw on my website, like, yeah, it's available, but then I don't tell anybody. So no one even knows it's there. Don't take marketing advice from me and that, or don't follow my lead anyway on marketing your paintings that way. You really need to let people know. They need to know those are available for sale or you're not going to get the sale. So, like I said, I've not been doing it, so I don't get the sale. You need to market very, very well. But again, if you can be also making it or also have an income through whether you're teaching or other sources, that's how I got through it when I was selling a lot and then it just stopped. Let's see. Melanie said, I agree it's horrible to have to fight with your supplies. I wish I had it in the budget to try polychromos. You know, when you eventually do have it in your budget, just get the 12 set like I'm using here. They're fine. I don't need, if I need another color and I have to have it, I could grab one of the other brands. But the set of 12, you can mix and blend. I mean, here, these are all light grays. I don't even have a light gray pencil. I don't need it. I'm mixing it. You learn to mix. And I think it makes you a better, or you'll learn to have a better understanding of color if you limit the colors you're using. Use a limited color palette and learn to mix and blend. And it's just going to make it that much easier for you when you have all of the other pencils too. But again, Prismacolor, you can still create amazing things with them. So use what you have. I don't know, roll too far. Elaine said, I only get other artists that see me on Instagram so far. You know, and see, that's the thing with me. That's why I'm not selling a lot. I right now market myself to other artists because I teach and I love teaching and I love that aspect of my job so much. So that's where I really put all my attention into. So yeah, I don't have a lot of buyers that follow me. I'm not sure what tags you would use for that. Art for sale maybe, or I don't know. I don't know if people even look at that, but that would be something to consider. Let's see. Christy said, thank you. I tagged you my macaw picture on Instagram so you can see it. Okay, let's see if this tag came through, or am I just like slow tonight, which is possible. And oops, that's not even the right. I'm apparently slow. That wasn't even Instagram. Oh, you did tag me. Okay, tags do work. Oh, wow. See, now I wish I hadn't seen that because now I've got to step up the quality that I have to produce here because this is phenomenal. You guys want to go follow Kirsty Rebecca Fine Art, all one word, on Instagram. I don't know if you can see this. Probably not. I doubt this will film well. Oh, you can. Yes, you can see it. Holy crap. That's phenomenal. Also, she had the same idea as me as making the background dark. How funny that we both wanted the dark background, but wow. Oh, I've got my work cut out for me to even try to compete with that. That is amazing. Let's see. Next. Whoops. Sam Reeves Art said, I just ordered I can't read. Just created a MeWe account. Also, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, says Instagram is on the path for failure. Do you feel it's as viable for artists as ever? I think he's right. I think that Instagram and Facebook have set themselves up to fail, and I think it's only a matter of time. How much time? I don't know. Does that mean we should stop using it? No, it's still valuable, but I would rather put more time, for me, into MeWe. I'm hoping MeWe takes off. But no, I think that all of these platforms, they come and they go. And I do think that Instagram and Facebook have shot themselves in the foot by limiting and filtering. Like one of the things I loved about Instagram was that I saw photos, not a bunch of political posts or anything like that. It was people posting like, here's my art, here's whatever it was I was interested in, here's some red-eyed tree frogs. I follow some Bavarian people. But you would see those and you saw them in order of them being posted and I could catch up and see everything. Then Instagram was like, nah, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do what Facebook does since we're owned by Facebook and we're going to show you who we think you want to see, even if it's 2 days after it was posted. So like I could post something about a live stream going live and it doesn't actually show up for people on Instagram until 2 days later, 4 days later. Same with Facebook. I have a problem with that, both as a user and as a creator. Like, it's just, I think that he's correct in that they will not continue. They have so much going against them right now because of the choices that they've made. They've turned in a lot of people away. So you already have with like Facebook, young people don't even use Facebook much anymore. That's the old people, I guess people my age group still use it, but they've lost too much and not given enough back. And then they keep getting in trouble and outed for some of the really shady things they've done. Yeah, no, I'm with him on that. I do think it's going to end up going down. We'll see. I hope it does sooner rather than later, and another platform really can take off. MeWe, again, links in the description for my art page, my personal account, and for our art group. We are also doing a group but see, we need MeWe to grow more, and we need to get more people interested in buying art, but a group where you can sell, a separate group, not our normal art group, it is separate, that we've made for selling work. But again, we've got to get buyers in the group in order for that to work. So that's, I definitely agree with him. And they've been going downhill for a while. The more changes, and it's not just change, like people will always resist change, but they're making bad changes that don't make sense. They make sense for their dollar amount, trying to get people like what was it, the thing they wanted you to do a while back? Set up like they tried to get me to change over to a business account. Why? So you can filter me even worse? I saw what you did over on Facebook. You're the same people. I saw what you did to my business page. Pass. I am not changing. That's why my Instagram one is still technically a personal account, because they screwed everyone over with their business pages with Facebook. What makes me think they wouldn't do the same over here? Which they are, as it turns out. So, yeah. Nope. Kelly said, Google search shows they are owned by Newell Brands, which owns Rubbermaid, Coleman, Yankee Candles, and about 50 other brands. Exactly. So that's going back to Prismacolor. They're owned by, they're not dependent on Prismacolor's making them a huge profit. They've got all these other companies. Let's see. See if I can get caught up on these questions before we're done. I keep rambling for so long. That's a shocker. Daniel said, I created a MeWe account. I need to learn the site before I continue. It doesn't take that long to get the hang of. Like I had a pretty decent understanding of it. I played with it for about a week and was very comfortable with it in that amount of time. Christy said, thanks for the shout out. You're the reason I got back into art. And yes, that's why I wanted to show you, because our thoughts were similar with the dark background. That is awesome to hear. That's one of the things, like as a teacher, that makes me so excited and makes me love teaching so much. When you see someone else's art and you're like, wow, that looks better than mine, and they tell you that you influenced them, it's like, I just get to have some credit for your amazing artwork. I don't know. That's exciting. So thank you. Elaine said, well, I'm glad you focused on teaching, because thanks to you that I got back into art after 20 years. I'm so grateful. Thank you. See, this is why I love teaching so much. I love messages like that. Like, it's so encouraging to me, and it's so much fun. So not only do I get to create artwork that I love, I get to help others. Like, I can't think of a better job. Okay, 10 o'clock, 10:01. I am tired. I'm really tired. I still have to go get my walk in. How many steps do I still? Oh, I'm actually not too far off. I only need a short walk tonight to make my step goal. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure to check out our moderators channel, Joseph and Nick Edgar. They have their links in the video description. They both have YouTube channels here. They help so much both here and over on our art group on MeWe and on Facebook. MeWe is better. But definitely go follow them. Tell them thank you. They help so much. They keep all the trolls and the nasty comments away. And yeah, we are good. We're done for the night. Thank you for joining. Next week, this should be done. My goal is to have this done by Friday night, or work on it all Friday night. So it'll be done by Saturday, but I'm not sure what next week is. I keep saying I'm going to do more smart art, I have smart art boxes all over my room right now. It's kind of insane, but I know I need to do some of those. Got to get caught up on those soon. And I really want to play with some of those supplies. So that should be soon. I don't know if that's next week or I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you next time. I'm probably forgetting something important to tell you. I don't know what it is.